All right. This is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Kind of excited a little bit because it's beginning the 5 straight days of playoff action in football. We got the first college football semifinal tonight with the Miami Hurricanes playing Ole Miss Rebels in the Fiesta Bowl. And of course, tomorrow you have the Indiana Hoosiers and Oregon Ducks playing in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. The winners will play not next Monday, but Monday the 19th for national championship. NFL playoffs kick off with 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and then the Steelers and Texans will close out wild card weekend on Monday. So I'm looking forward to some interesting action in the playoff front. But tonight, the first game of the 5-day set, college football semifinals, you have the Hurricanes trying to get respectability or come back to regain what they had in the past, which some people look at as a detriment to the current team. Maybe some of these players might want to try to live up to what was done in the past, but the head coach is putting a cap on all of that because he's taking it one game at a time, and while he's embracing the past, he doesn't want that to weigh in so much with what they have going now, and which makes a whole lot of sense. Now, some of the players on the sidelines for the Hurricanes have been getting a little flack for that. Not for me. I've been seeing these guys hang around the sideline for years now, so that's no big deal. Or I would say that sometimes I think they get a little bit overzealous. Besides that, though, there's no problem with the guys keeping up with their alma maters and wanting to see them do well. There's no problem there. But I think the key to the game tonight is, can Ole Miss quarterback escape the pass rush of the Hurricanes? And can the Hurricanes put enough pressure on Chambers to affect Ole Miss's offense? If they're unable to gain control of Chambers, then this has the potential to be a high-scoring game. Unlike Texas A&M, where the quarterback, he out partying and doing everything else except focusing on doing the right things, Chambers and Ole Miss have what I call the Steve Fisher factor going. Steve Fisher was the longtime coach of Michigan Wolverines basketball, and he took over right at the NCAA tournament time of 1989. That's because their head coach had taken a position, I believe, at Arizona State. I want to say it was Bill Frieder. I got to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it was Bill Frieder. He left to go to Arizona State, and he wanted to coach the team throughout the tournament. But the athletic director, who happens to be the famed football coach, Bo Schembechler, would say, no, we're not going to have that. Either you're with us or you're not. So when they got rid of Frieder, Fisher came in, and he led the team all the way, and they won the national championship, beating Seton Hall in Seattle back in 1989. And it's the same kind of thing that's going on with Ole Miss right now, with Lane Kiffin leaving to go to LSU, wanting to take the team through the playoffs. He wanted to experience that. And he's not being allowed to do that. But at the same time, he still has an effect on what's going on, because every time they win a game, he gets bonus money for it. Half the coaches on the staff are signed to go with him to LSU. And if LSU decided they didn't want to allow them to continue this pursuit, they can pull the plug on the whole thing, leaving Ole Miss high and dry. But that wouldn't look too good for Lane Kiffin, because if you're going to do him like that now, who's to say they won't stick him in the back later, which I think is going to happen anyway, but that's a topic for another day. So I think that the team has galvanized behind Kiffin leaving, and they want to prove a point that while he's very important and integral to their success, they don't necessarily need him if he's going to turn if they're going to if he turned his back on them, forget about him. So we're going to go out and show the world, because they pretty much gave up on Ole Miss when it was found that Kiffin wasn't going to be able to coach throughout the playoffs. And they pretty much gave up on the idea that Ole Miss could actually advance. And the players knew about that, so they're trying to prove everybody wrong on that front. And because of that, with that chip on their shoulder, if Miami cannot get to that quarterback, then Ole Miss is going to have a very good chance of winning the game. Now, the other thing that's swirling around the situation here is the ACC didn't get any respect this year. It's kind of their fault in a way that they designed their conference championship. Duke, with all those losses, should have never been in the ACC championship, and Miami being held out from tiebreaker purposes. And it was thought that the league might get left out of the playoffs all alone. Well, the fact that Duke won with that lowly record they had pretty much kept, I won't say kept, but what it did do is allow the group of five to get that second team in the playoffs. And the ACC not having the respect that it should have had, people feeling that it was a down conference, now have Miami as their lone participant, and they have an opportunity to make it to the championship game. So that would be a huge shot in the arm if Miami is able to get to the championship game, especially since they weren't able to play in their own conference championship. So it opens another question. What is the purpose of the conference championship if a team like Miami can go through the playoffs without even playing in the conference championship? Now, the flip side of that is, we just talked about ACC trying to get respect, SEC trying to hold on to whatever respect they had. Now, people always say that the SEC was a dominant conference. Well, they were dominant. The champions were dominant. The top teams of the SEC will always be competitive with any other conference. But the idea that the SEC was completely dominant top to bottom has always been false. If you look at the gaudy non-conference record that they have, most of those wins come from pay-for-play games. In other words, they call some small school, say, look, you come on over here, we give you $900,000, $800,000 for this game. We get a little work in, we get the win, everybody goes home happy, and you go home with a big check. Just hopefully you won't get none of your players hurt. That's what we would like to see. And they rack up on these games year in and year out, and it makes their conference look like they just so much better than everybody else. But in reality, it is not. The real reality is all these conferences are set up the same. You got 2 or 3 teams at the top, you got 2 or 3 teams at the bottom, and the rest are clearly in the middle. If you put all these teams from all these conferences and shake them up into the bag, then you pull it out, you're going to get what you have now with these college football playoffs. Anybody can win, and the SEC ain't what you think they are. And it's been shown not only in the bowl games, but in the college football playoffs. Another interesting thing about that, all these years building up to this, ESPN and all these other major news organizations, they always talk about how great the SEC is. And because of that, people get the idea that the SEC is going to always dominate. But again, it is not the case. They were getting the benefit of the doubt when it came to who made it to the playoffs or who got selected for the playoffs. And it's all based on image and perception. But reality on the field, their top teams are no better than the other conference teams. You see it in the bowl games. When these teams won, they say how great the SEC is, but when they lose, or they want to sweep it up under the rug. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We will take care of it next year. And that's just the way it goes, man. And that's kind of difficult. All right, let me see what we got going on here. All right. Joya Kyle, whatever that means, says hello. So to Stephanie Hawkins, how you doing? JC, what's going on, man? Mr. Badass, I don't know what you're talking about. Fun fact, close Saturdays. Okay. Just go figure. Mischievous 94, 91, talking about Colorado? No, why would I be talking about Colorado? Uh, okay, any thoughts on helping? Okay. All right, we got a bunch of idiots on, JC. I don't have time to worry about it. I'm going to be on much longer anyway. But the point is that I'm trying to make that when the SEC wins a game, they make a huge deal out of it. But when they lose, it's sweeping under the rug. And that's not good when you have other conferences just as good as they are. They don't fill up 110,000 seat stadiums. And they don't get the same kind of respect as everybody else. So it's ironic that the teams that don't get the respect, like the ACC, is in a position that they can go to a championship. And same thing with Ole Miss. They have opportunity to try to save the reputation or the honor of the SEC, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. But I think if Chambliss is able to run around and make some plays, then it's going to make it pretty interesting. But I know one thing he will not be able to do. That play he made against Georgia when he ran to one side and circled back and went the other way, that should never happen. We had a defender that was trailing him and took the wrong angle that allowed him to escape. And after seeing that he's capable of doing these kind of things, you can expect Miami is going to be prepared on trying to keep him corralled in the pocket on such a play. So if he's going to get outside and make a play, he's going to have to do it in a different manner. So it'll be interesting to see how that game unfolds. But I'm going to actually go with Ole Miss this time. I think that the Steve Fisher factor is going to play a big part here. And if they don't turn the ball over, it's going to be a great game anyway. But if Ole Miss can keep the turnovers down, then this should be a very exciting game. Now, one thing I will say, if they fall behind 10, 12 points like they did against Georgia, I don't think they're going to be able to catch Miami. And that's why it's important that they don't turn the ball over. So, like I said, Chambliss, he's the key to all of this. And just one note about Chambliss, he just applied for a waiver to come back for a 6th year to play college football. And I'm kind of hoping he does not get that, because I really don't see the reason why a player should get all these excessive number of years to play college ball. I mean, I know things are changing, but at the same time, if you allow these guys to stay and play 7, 8, 9 years, then what you have is another professional league. And that is not the goal of what's been taking place. Now, the NCAA, every time some NIL plan comes up and transfer portal, it takes power away from the NCAA. And they are struggling to maintain their hold over the sports nation. And I think that if these guys are continue to play excessive number of years, then the NCAA is just going to be crushed forever. So it's important for them to deny this waiver to Chambliss, but it also opens them up to be sued. And they don't want to keep going to court over all these different fights that they're fighting right now, but their survivability is on the line. So they almost have to reject this waiver, because what is the point of bringing in high school kids when you can just get players that are already in the system, and if they can stay 7, 8, 9 years, and hell, you don't need guys from high school anymore, because the guys in there now are going to maintain it. And if you do get somebody out of high school, they're going to start at the lower levels, and then they're going to develop at these lower schools, and you're going to get the talent from that level instead of getting them from high school. So a lot of things are on the line with this guy Chambliss, if he's going to be allowed to get this waiver. Now, speaking of lawsuits, it looks like the Washington Huskies quarterback, he had signed the NIL deal to come back, but now he's trying to go back to the portal. Well, Washington, they got a problem with that, and so do I. If you signed a deal to stay, why are you trying to leave again all of a sudden? There are no more second transfer portal windows coming up later this year. So the idea was to eliminate that so coaches can have an idea what they're going to have moving forward. By him already being signed, they assume he's going to be there and they want him to honor that contract. But if he's going to leave anyway, then they're threatening to go to court over this. And that opens up another possible avenue for the destruction of the NCAA. Eventually, they're not going to be able to stop these players from moving around. And I think what's going to end up happening, these players are going to have unlimited time to play in the NCAA. And college football, as you know it, is never going to be the same again. And basically what you're going to have is another professional football league. And I don't know if that's a good thing. Then you're going to start having kickback from the NFL because they try to destroy it. Well, they destroyed every other competing pro football league that come against them. And you can't litigate against the NCAA because that is your main field. So there's a lot of possibilities about what's going to happen moving forward with this NCAA. But this guy at Washington, I think his name Desmond Williams or something like that, he signed a contract and now he's trying to get out of it. And that's a big problem. And the Washington's not happy about it, nor is the Big Ten. And the NCAA's got some decisions to make. And the decisions they make is going to determine the health of the sport moving forward. And it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. JC says transfer portal is a big key also with players going all over the different colleges. Well, they corralled that somewhat. You used to have 2 transfer windows. Now you have 1. So after the one that's open now closes, the players that are moving are going to be with that school through the spring all the way into the season and be able to go into the transfer portal at this time next year. So that helps the coaches out a lot because now you have an idea about what you're going to have instead of scrambling at the last minute to fill certain holes. So that was a good move to close that second window. He also says since NIL came into play, it leveled the playing field so SECs have all the money to draw players like they used to. Well, NIL was the death knell to that. What really started to change that was the scholarship limits being reduced. Used to have like 100 and something that was reduced to 85. So you mentioned Alabama's and the Georgias, they might have the second and third string was almost as good as the first string, and they're sitting there waiting their turn. But when the scholarships got reduced, then they started going to other places. So now instead of sitting there waiting to play, you're already playing. And NIL and transfer portal come into play. There's no reason to sit at Alabama and wait till your senior year before you play. Those days are over with. So they basically don't have any depth anymore. So even with as good as Indiana was against Alabama last week, Alabama would have been a whole lot better if they had more scholarship players. So they still would have been a major threat to Indiana, even though Indiana has mastered the modern system of what's taking place now. So it is balanced the playing field, just like you said. And the old guard, those that can't manage it, they're going to start falling apart. And the fan bases, they can't deal with that. Alabama, they're pulling their hair out. They can't believe I told you ahead of time what was going to happen. They were going to go to the Rose Bowl already thinking that they were in the semifinals because they were going out there to play a basketball school. And that's just not the way it is. You're looking at what happened in the past as opposed to what's happening now. And that lets you know that they're outdated. So they got to make some changes real fast, or otherwise Alabama ain't going to be what we know Alabama to be. All right, transfer portal is a big key. All right. Lexington Video says, hello. All right, how you doing? See what else I missed here. All right. But that's pretty much it today. I didn't have a whole lot to talk about, but I'm excited about the playoff game tonight. Again, the key is, can the Hurricanes put enough pressure on Ole Miss's quarterback to slow that offense down? If he's able to escape and make plays, then Ole Miss is going to be very dangerous to the Hurricanes. But I think more than what the Hurricanes can do with them, I think they're just overly motivated to prove a guy like Lane Kiffin wrong by moving somewhere where he thinks things are better. But it didn't make sense to go somewhere to get them in a position where you already are. Don't make a whole lot of sense. But I also like to see Ole Miss advance because this is a program that hadn't won anything. Yeah, 1962, they got credit for some part of a national championship, but not really. That's probably the highest ranked team that they ever had. They've had some good teams in the last 15, 20 years. So it's not out of the question that they couldn't play. It's just they didn't never finish quite high. And even that 62 team was too damn slow to keep up with the other teams that was at the top. But not now. And Ole Miss got a great chance to go to the championship. And I don't know if they're ever going to have that chance anytime soon. But my dream championship would have been Indiana playing Vanderbilt because those are the two losingest programs in NCAA history. And it would have been great to see those two teams on the field. But since I can't get that, I like to see Ole Miss make it to the championship to take on Indiana, and I'll be satisfied with that, whoever wins the game. But in the meantime, wherever you guys are, man, have a great day. I'm going to try to have one, but I got to get to work. And if there's some breaking news, I come on back on later. I like to do some simulcasting if there's time. Got some basketball games I got to cover tonight, so I may not be able to do it. But if not, we'll get on and tomorrow and we'll talk about what happens tonight. And then we'll preview the Indiana-Oregon game moving forward, as well as the NFL playoffs coming up. So until then, have a great day. This is Sports For Real. I got to get up out of here, man. So I'm out. Can't wait to see those Steelers on Monday.